My stepmom accused me of stealing her $50,000, and my dad let them take me. Years later, her confession exposed a truth they never saw coming. Let me tell you everything that happened. My name's Caleb. I was 17 when I learned that the people who are supposed to protect you can lie straight to your face while watching you drown. Back then, I lived with my dad and his new wife, Angela, in a beige two-story house that never felt like mine. I kept to myself mostly. My real mom passed when I was 10, ovarian cancer. Quiet, cruel, and fast. After that, Dad got quieter, too. And then, Angela appeared like a solution no one asked for. At first, I tried to like her, but she always smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. Her hugs were too tight, like she was claiming something. The money wasn't supposed to be touched. $50,000, life insurance from my mom. College fund. She told me that before she died, right from her hospital bed. It's for your future, Caleb. No matter what happens. My dad put it in a joint account in both our names. I remember that bank visit. He made me sign the form with trembling hands, like he was scared I'd vanish too. I never touched it. Not once. But Angela knew about it. And one Thursday morning, during spring break, I came downstairs to Dad pacing in the kitchen, holding his phone like it had bitten him. She says you took it, he said, not looking at me. I laughed, a short, confused breath. Took what? His jaw twitched. The money, Caleb. The college fund. All of it's gone. I didn't even sit down. I remember gripping the counter, not because I was scared, but because my knees almost buckled. Are you serious? Angela stood behind him, barefoot in one of my mom's old robes like it belonged to her now. Her voice floated in, low and sweet. We just need the truth, honey. If you made a mistake, we can fix it. I didn't take it. She looked at me like she was disappointed in a puppy. Then who did? That's when I realized the game wasn't about finding the truth. It was about framing it. I looked to my dad. You know I didn't touch that money. He didn't answer. Not right away. And then he said 5 words that never stopped echoing. I don't know anything anymore. I wanted to scream, break something, force him to see me. But I just stared. Angela placed her hand on his back, gentle, possessive. He didn't flinch. Maybe, she whispered, he needed to feel in control of something. Kids do things they don't understand. I didn't touch it, I repeated. She sighed. Well, the account is empty. Unless someone hacked it. She let the sentence dangle like a baited hook. No police. No investigation. Just a quiet decision over a dry dinner. It was best if I took some time away. They said I could go stay with Aunt Lisa. Take a break. Get clarity, Dad said, like I'd misplaced it. The next morning, my suitcase was packed. Angela had even folded my clothes, laid a sandwich on the counter. She kissed my dad on the cheek as he handed me an envelope with a bus ticket and $200. I watched her watch me as I left. Not a flicker of guilt. Just that smile. Perfect, cruel, and victorious. What they didn't know, what she didn't even think to ask, was that I kept receipts. Literal ones, yeah, from my side jobs. But also the kind you can't print. Memories. Motives. Glances. Whispers. All of it. I took it with me when I left. Every single piece. Because deep down, even then, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the opening scene. Aunt Lisa lived 3 hours north in a town no one ever talks about. One gas station. One grocery store. For churches and not much else. The bus ride there felt like slow death in a plastic seat. And every bump in the road kept whispering the same thing. They let you go. Not punished, not grounded, not yelled at, just erased. That's what stung the most. My dad didn't call once after I left. Didn't even ask for proof, a password, a trace. Angela said I took 50 grand, and that was enough to exile me. That wasn't discipline. That was a decision. And it was final. Lisa tried to be kind in that way people are when they don't understand your damage. She gave me the spare room and asked 0 questions. I respected that, but it also made everything harder to hold in. Because no one was asking if I was okay, I started pretending I was. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and run 3 miles just to exhaust myself, trying to tire out the thoughts. In school, I said the transfer was personal. No one pried. Nobody wants to peel back pain unless it's entertaining. Most nights, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, watching it spin and thinking, does Dad even miss me? But I never asked. I never reached out. Because silence was all he gave me, and I wasn't going to beg for noise. Angela kept posting photos, family dinners, backyard parties, her smiling in the kitchen where my mom used to stand. I stopped following them after a while, but once a week, I'd cave and check. She always looked like she was winning. And maybe she was. Dad looked smaller in every picture, though, like something was draining out of him. I used to imagine him stumbling across some clue, like a receipt or a text message that would vindicate me. But that moment never came. Not then. Back then, it was all shadows and silence. And if I was going to survive it, I had to stop waiting to be rescued. It's strange, the things you start noticing when you're alone. Angela's manipulation wasn't loud, it was surgical. The timing, the tone, the way she positioned herself as the protector, the adult in the room. She didn't accuse me like someone who found something missing, she accused me like someone who needed me gone. And Dad? He gave her the perfect silence to work with. No questions, no resistance. I think he was tired. That's how betrayal works sometimes. It doesn't come with fire and screaming. It comes with exhaustion and the desire to believe the simplest version of events. And the simplest version was that I stole something and left. I got a part-time job at a car wash that winter. It didn't pay much, but I needed to feel useful. Lisa didn't ask where I went during the day. She trusted me. Or maybe she just knew better than to treat me like I was broken. There's power in being ignored. Sometimes. It teaches you how to observe. I started noticing patterns in people, their micro-expressions, their tells, their inconsistencies. I didn't just learn to spot liars. I learned to listen to the lies they told themselves. Angela's voice lived in my head longer than I wanted to admit. Her smug concern. Her gentle lies. We just want the truth. No, she wanted the throne. I missed my mother in ways I couldn't speak. Not just her presence, but her protection. The idea that someone once fought for me, just because. Not because I was right or good or perfect, but because I was hers. Angela stole more than money. She stole that shield. And Dad handed it over without a fight. Maybe that's why I stopped waiting for him to come around. It wasn't just about believing me. It was about realizing he'd already chosen his peace over my pain. Spring came, then summer. I passed my classes. Saved what little money I could. I didn't touch the envelope Dad gave me when I left, the one with the bus ticket stub and the $200. I kept it in a shoebox unopened. A trophy, in a way. Proof that they had to pay me to disappear. I taped the envelope shut again and wrote one word on the front. Debt. Not to them. To myself. A reminder that I would come back. Not as a victim, but as someone they wouldn't recognize. And somewhere in all of this, the anger cooled. It didn't vanish. It calcified. Became something quieter. Something strategic. Because vengeance isn't fire. It's ice. It's patience. It's watching your enemies build their house on a lie and waiting for the rot to show. That's what I learned in exile. That absence isn't weakness. It's preparation. Angela thought she got rid of me. But I wasn't gone. I was just becoming someone else. I remember one night that summer, I was walking back from work, sunburned and tired. And I passed this old gas station with a flickering sign. Something about it made me stop. There was a woman inside, behind the counter, watching a man yell about a wrong lottery ticket. She looked bored, but not scared. She'd seen this before, knew how it ended. That's when it hit me. Angela's done this before. She's been someone's problem before. This wasn't her first con. I just happened to be in the way this time. I started digging. Not much at first. Just old posts, old comments, old tags. But soon I found things. Photos, locations, connections, patterns. That's when I realized Angela's story had holes. And the more I looked, the more I saw them. But I wasn't ready to act yet. I wasn't done disappearing. Not until the person I used to be was gone completely. Because when I came back, I didn't want to be their son or their mistake. I wanted to be the one who saw through everything. By the time I turned 19, the version of me they exiled was mostly dead. Not all at once, he died in pieces. In every ignored message. In every unopened birthday card. In every time I stared at the door expecting a knock that never came. But some parts stayed alive just long enough to sharpen. I didn't want revenge the way you think. Not fire and brimstone. I wanted clarity. I wanted the truth on record. And I wanted them, especially her, to know I'd seen behind the curtain, that she was never a queen, just a magician with good timing and bad intentions. College was barely within reach, but I scraped my way in through scholarships and insomnia. I picked psychology not because I loved it, but because I needed it. I needed to understand how people like Angela worked, how lies sound like comfort, how abusers twist tone like knives. I studied facial tension, eye contact duration, confabulation patterns. And I didn't just read the textbooks. I watched people, my professors, my roommates, myself. I took notes in a red leather journal, underlining words like projection, gaslighting, plausible deniability. Angela was every chapter, and my father was the appendix, passive, enabling, complicit by default. I worked nights cleaning hotel rooms. It paid just enough. Strangers left behind fragments of their lives, bills, receipts, cologne samples, texts still glowing on forgotten phones. Most people think their mess disappears with a tip, but I learned something in those rooms. What people discard reveals what they're trying to forget, and what they're trying to forget is often where the truth hides. That's when I realized I'd been approaching it all wrong. I didn't need to find out why Angela took the money. I needed to know who she gave it to. Because someone had it. And no thief steals that much just to sit on it. It started with a name I didn't recognize, Ty. He showed up in a few of her old social media photos. Always blurry, always cropped close. His arm around her shoulder in a way that wasn't quite platonic. There were tags removed, posts deleted. But the internet never forgets completely. I found his full name buried in an old tagged comment from someone who probably never meant to reveal it. Tyler Morgan, mid-30s. Personal trainer. Lived in the next city over. Recently divorced. A photo showed him with his hand on Angela's waist at a wellness retreat. Same retreat she told my dad she was attending for self-care. I didn't confront her. I didn't message him. That's not how this works. You don't tap the glass before the shark bites. You let them believe they're safe, that they've won. I kept watching. Quietly. Angela had a burner account. She used it to follow pages she didn't want traced to her. Tyler's gym, mostly. A local florist. A wedding dress reseller. Things my father knew nothing about. The money was gone, but her plans were growing. And him? He wasn't hiding either. He posted a watch my dad once owned. A rare one, black dial, custom engraving. To see, the time is yours. I remembered it from when I was a kid. Dad's retirement gift from his first firm. He wore it every Sunday. Then it just disappeared. I printed the photo and pinned it in my journal. I drew a red line from the watch to Angela's name. Another line to a hotel receipt I found online in a public review. Tyler had mentioned her name in a response to a guest complaint. Dumb, reckless, and perfect. She wasn't just funneling money. She was gifting pieces of my father's life to another man like they were party favors. The betrayal wasn't about theft. It was surgical replacement. My mother's money. My father's trust. My place in that house. All of it, handed over in neat little packages to a man who smiled in selfies with gym towels around his neck. But here's the thing no one tells you about gathering evidence. It doesn't satisfy. It builds. It stacks like bricks in your chest. Every new detail makes it harder to breathe. You can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. I started having dreams where I confronted them. Angela crying, Dad screaming, Tyler laughing. But I always woke up before I said what I needed to say. Maybe because deep down, I didn't want revenge. I wanted witnesses. I wanted the people who dismissed me, ignored me, erased me, to sit in the audience when the curtain finally dropped. That summer, I returned to Aunt Lisa's for a weekend. She was older now, more tired, but still warm. I asked her if Dad ever called. She didn't answer at first, just poured coffee, then said, quietly, he asked about you once. A couple years back. I didn't say much. Figured he didn't deserve more. I nodded, but the words clung to me. He asked once, like checking a weather report. I thought about writing him a letter, not to forgive, just to prepare, but I didn't. Instead, I printed out every file, every photo, every receipt, and sealed them in a plain envelope. I wrote one word on the front, evidence. I didn't send it. Not yet. That was for later. Because people only see the truth when the lie starts to rot. And rot takes time. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that I'd started recording calls, conversations, posts, even a voicemail Angela left Tyler one night when she didn't realize she was on speaker. He's a child, Ty. He doesn't even know what we're doing. Let them think he's the thief. It keeps everything cleaner. Her voice sounded light, careless, confident. I played that message back until I memorized it, until her cruelty felt like data instead of pain. That's when I knew I was ready. Not for confrontation. Not yet. But for return. I came back on a Tuesday. Not for a holiday. Not for a reunion. Just a day like any other, forgettable to everyone but me. I told Aunt Lisa I needed to revisit some things. She nodded like she already knew. I didn't pack much. One bag. One clean shirt. In the envelope, thicker now, heavier with facts no one asked for. I took the early train. It was half empty, gray, and humming. The world outside the window blurred by like old memories, edges soft, emotions jagged. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I felt surgical. Like I was walking into an operating room, not a home. The house hadn't changed much. Same white shutters. Same porch light that flickered when it rained. But there were little differences. The garden was dying. A crack in the driveway had deepened. The wind chimes my mom used to hang were gone. Angela's SUV sat in the driveway, new and spotless. My father's car wasn't there. I stood at the curb longer than I needed to. Not out of fear, but calculation. The last time I left this house, it was with an accusation I didn't earn and a silence I didn't break. This time, I was the silence. I rang the doorbell. Angela opened it barefoot, in a silk robe, holding a coffee mug that said gratitude. The irony almost made me laugh. She blinked twice like her eyes had to refocus. "Caleb," she said. Not surprised. Not warm. Just evaluating. She stepped aside slowly. "Well, this is unexpected." I stepped inside. "I won't stay long." The air smelled like cinnamon and cleaning products, too sweet, too sterile. I noticed small details instinctively. A broken picture frame near the stairs. New art in the hallway, modern, expensive. Angela walked toward the kitchen like I was a guest who'd arrived without a casserole. "Your dad's at work," she said over her shoulder. "Tuesdays he covers for his partner. You just missed him." I said nothing. Just looked around the living room. My mother's piano was gone. Angela sat on the edge of the couch. "So what brings you here? Need something?" I looked her in the eye. "Just tying up loose ends." Her smile was tight, almost rehearsed. "Well, you look, well. I always said you'd land on your feet. You said a lot of things." A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. Not fear, annoyance. Because she wasn't afraid of me. Not yet. She thought this was a drop-in. A nostalgic moment. A failed attempt at reconnection. That's what happens when people mistake your silence for weakness. I sat across from her and placed the envelope on the coffee table. She didn't reach for it. "I know about Tyler," I said evenly. Her face didn't break. Just twitched. A single eye muscle. "I know about the retreats, the bank transfers, the hotel rooms, the burner account. I know about the watch you gave him. I know where the money went. I know everything." She laughed. Softly. Controlled. "Is this supposed to be some kind of threat?" "No," I said. "It's a fact." She looked down at the envelope like it might be a bomb. And maybe it was. I stood up. "I'm not here to punish you, Angela. I'm here to give Dad a chance to see what he married." Her voice dropped an octave. "You think he'll believe you now? After all these years?" I leaned closer. "I don't care if he believes me. I care that he starts asking the right questions." And with that, I left. I didn't give her time to pivot, to cry, to weaponize pity. That's her game. I was playing something slower, something quieter. I left the envelope on the table, dead center, like a fuse waiting for the right spark. 2 days passed. Then he called. His voice sounded older, like dust and gravel. "I saw what you left." I said nothing. Let the silence work. I don't know what to say. I stayed quiet. Let him fill it. She told me it was all fake. Said you doctored everything. Still I said nothing. But there was one thing she said I couldn't let go of. Something about the watch. She said I gave it to her for their anniversary. He paused. But I never told her what the engraving said. I swallowed hard. She guessed. But she got it wrong. And just like that, the first crack formed. "I didn't protect you," he said. "I should have. I should have. You didn't believe me. I know. More silence. What do you want me to do? I didn't answer right away. Because I didn't know. I didn't want him to fix it. I didn't want her thrown in jail. I didn't want apologies mailed in envelopes too late to matter. I just wanted the truth to sit between them like a shadow they couldn't unsee. I want you to stop pretending she's someone she's not, I said. He exhaled. A long, slow sound. I think I already have. We never said goodbye. He hung up, and that was it. I didn't know what he'd do next. If he'd confront her, or just let it rot quietly like most men do when they realize they handed the wrong person the keys to their life. But I knew one thing. He couldn't unsee it now, and neither could she. Sometimes, revenge isn't a storm. It's a whisper, a truth laid bare in a living room that used to be yours, a silence that grows teeth. Angela thought I'd disappeared, but I had just been waiting. And now? She wasn't just exposed. She was alone. It happened on a Sunday. I didn't plan it that way, but maybe the world did. Sundays were sacred growing up, eggs, bacon, and jazz echoing from the kitchen. My mom used to hum while she cooked. After she passed, those Sundays died with her. Angela replaced them with yoga videos and herbal tea. That morning, I was 2 hours away, walking a trail I'd memorized with my eyes closed. I wasn't expecting the call. When it came, my phone buzzed once and stopped. A voicemail. The kind of call that never wants to speak to your face. I stood under a pine tree and pressed play. It was Dad. His voice wasn't angry. It was surgical, like mine had been. I asked her. She lied at first. Said you made it up. Said you were still bitter. But I told her about the engraving again. She froze. There was a pause on the message, long, heavy. Then she said something she didn't mean to. She said, "Why are you believing him now when it was easier before?" Another pause. She slipped. That's how I knew. I knew you were telling the truth. I stood there, frozen. Not with satisfaction, but something messy, grief, vindication, exhaustion. You think you'll feel powerful when it happens, when they finally admit it, or at least stop denying it. But it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like staring at a collapsed building you once called home. I listened to the message twice. Then I walked the rest of the trail with my hands in my pockets and my heart somewhere back at mile 2. Because truth is heavy, and once you carry it long enough, you forget how to let it down. Later that day, I got a text from Aunt Lisa. He asked if you'd come by this week. I told him that's up to you. I didn't respond right away. I needed time. Time to think about whether forgiveness was even on the table, or if it ever should be. But part of me wanted to see the crater, the wreckage. Because sometimes, justice isn't about closure. It's about bearing witness to the damage they swore would never happen. I drove down on Wednesday. No train this time. Just me and the envelope again, though lighter now. I left the last few documents in the glove compartment. The house looked the same, but felt different. Like it knew. Like it had been holding its breath for years and finally exhaled. I knocked once. My dad opened the door. No smile. No welcome. Just space. Space for something to begin or end. He looked thinner. Not physically. Spiritually. Like someone had removed a frame inside him and the structure slumped in its absence. We didn't hug. We didn't speak for the first 10 seconds. Then he said, "She's gone." Where? He shrugged. Didn't ask. Didn't care. We sat in the living room. The same one where she'd accused me years ago. Where she'd worn my mother's robe and placed blame like it was part of the decor. The couch felt smaller now. The silence louder. He cleared his throat. You were right. I didn't respond. I believed her because it was easier. Because I didn't want to believe my wife could do something like that. And I didn't want to believe I was the kind of father who could raise a thief. But you were okay believing I was one. His eyes dropped. I wasn't okay. I was just cowardly. Silence again. She said you were manipulative. That you framed her. I almost believed it again. But when she talked about the money, she said, he only found it because I got sloppy. He looked at me now. She didn't say it like a lie. She said it like a memory. My throat tightened. Not because I needed his apology, but because it was finally clear he'd heard her mask drop. She's been gone 2 days, he said. Left a note. Something about self-care. I almost laughed. She's consistent. He smiled, but it was bitter. Do you hate me? I paused. No, but I don't trust you. He nodded. That's fair. I stood up, walked toward the mantel. The family photo was still there. Me, Dad, Angela. Fake smiles. The old world. I turned it face down. He watched. What happens now? I thought about it. No? You sit with it. Like I did. He nodded again, slower this time. You want the money back? I turned to him. It's not about the money. It never was. He swallowed hard. I want to fix this. You can't. What can I do? I picked up the envelope, thinner now, but still weighty. I handed it to him. Keep this. Read it when you think she was good to you. He accepted it like it might burn. Why not take it with you? He asked. Because I already carried it long enough. We didn't say goodbye. I walked to my car and sat inside for 5 minutes before starting the engine. He watched from the porch, not waving. Just standing there, alone. Like he finally understood what that word really meant. I didn't drive away with a smile. I didn't feel light. I felt free. And that's different. It's not joy. It's not relief. It's something colder, cleaner, like a broken bone finally set in place. Angela never reached out. Not once. Not to defend herself. Not to spin another lie. Maybe she knew. Maybe she was already on to her next story. Her next victim. But this time, I had made sure the last page of my story was hers too. Sometimes the fallout isn't dramatic. It's not shouting or shoving or sirens. Sometimes it's just a man standing alone on a porch with a folder full of truth and no one left to lie to. The last time I saw my father was at a grocery store, of all places. Late afternoon. I was picking up coffee filters. He was in the freezer aisle, staring at bags of frozen peas like they were maps. He didn't notice me right away. Just stood there with that lost, hollow look he wore now like a second skin. When he finally looked up and saw me, he didn't wave. Didn't smile. Just nodded, like he was acknowledging a neighbor, not a son. I nodded back. We didn't say a word. And strangely, that silence felt more honest than any conversation we ever had after the truth came out. I didn't expect a full circle. No reunion. No movie ending. Some things don't heal. They just stop bleeding. I didn't need him to say sorry again. I didn't want to hear about his therapy or how he was trying to process. I just needed him to feel it. To carry even an ounce of what I'd hauled for years. And when I saw his shoulders slump under the weight of that aisle's fluorescent lights, I knew he felt it now. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to know he'd chosen the wrong person. Enough to know that loss can come in quiet forms. Not death. Not distance. Just disconnection. Irrevocable and permanent. Angela resurfaced 6 months later. Not to me. I found out through a blog post. She was hosting a retreat in Arizona. Different name. Same pitch. Reclaim your narrative. The irony nearly split me in half. She used my mother's money, my father's loyalty, and my silence to build a persona she could sell. But I didn't feel rage when I saw her photo. I felt bored, like staring at an old wound that doesn't ache anymore. Just a faint scar. A reminder. She wore all white. Her smile was the same. But her eyes looked different now, tighter. Like even she knew the walls were closing in, and this was just another temporary mask. I didn't expose her again. I could have. The documents were still there. The recordings. Even Tyler's betrayal, the gym he started with her money folded in less than a year. I could have sent it to every client she had. Could have buried her in the truth. But I didn't. Because vengeance isn't always about what you do. Sometimes, it's about what you don't do. I let her keep running. Let her perform her fiction to a crowd who didn't know the opening act. Because the one thing she couldn't steal was this. She no longer had control over my story. I moved cities a year later. Got a job with a nonprofit that works with kids who've been displaced emotionally, physically, both. I didn't tell them about my past. Didn't share my story. Not at first. I let it live where it belonged, behind me. But when I saw a teenage boy walk into my office with the same quiet, bruised look I once carried, I sat down and said, they didn't believe me either. And his eyes changed. Just slightly. But enough to know those words mattered. That they landed. That's the thing no one tells you about surviving betrayal. You don't come back the same. You come back harder, but not colder. Smarter, but not cynical. You learn to carry silence like a weapon. Not to hurt, but to protect. I don't flinch when someone walks away now. I don't beg for understanding. I don't over-explain. Because I know who I am. And more importantly, I know who I'm not. I'm not the thief they accused. I'm not the mistake they discarded. I'm not the silence they counted on. I'm the truth they tried to bury. Sometimes I still hear my mom's voice. Not in a haunted way. More like a memory that knows when I need it. I remember her saying, "The truth doesn't need to yell, Caleb. It just waits." And she was right. The truth waited. Through every exile. Every lie. Every smirk Angela wore like victory. It waited until they couldn't hide anymore. And when it came, it didn't scream. It settled. Now, when I think of that house of the garden withering, the watch Tyler wore, the envelope I left on the table, I don't feel fury. I feel distance. I feel choice. That house was never mine. That family was never whole. That silence was never protection. And the day I stopped waiting for an apology was the day I stopped being their victim. I saw my dad once more, briefly. A community event. He spoke to a group about resilience. I didn't go near the mic, didn't call his name. Just watched from the back. He looked tired. Maybe trying. I don't know. When he scanned the room, our eyes met for a moment. And he looked away. That was the real ending. Not a confrontation. Not a hug. Just that look. The inability to face the one you failed. And for me, that was everything. Because if a man can't look you in the eye after learning the truth, it means he finally sees it. If this story hit something real for you, if you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, or watched the truth come too late, stay with us. Hit subscribe, because here we tell the kind of stories that don't just end, they echo. And if you're still listening, maybe it's because you know what it feels like to be silent and right. See you soon in the next story.